our shift change a couple of miles back, the Ozark store here in the middle of the state. And it's a beautiful day. A couple of puffy clouds. Other than that, beautiful blue skies, nice and sunny. 77 degrees, rolling east on Interstate 70. And Trucker Josh is looking into APUs, according to his video logs, which I do watch regularly. And because of that, I want to discuss APUs today. Now, we've had several different models and several different trucks, so we've got some experience with them. And I just want to pass on that experience. So, three main units I'm going to talk about are the Tri-Pack, which is made by Thermo King, the Carrier unit, and Freightliner's Park Smart system. Now, I'm going to start off with the Park Smart. It's garbage. We had a brand new Freightliner Cascadia with the Park Smart system, and pretty much we'd be driving a week to a week and a half, and then we'd spend a week and a half to 2 weeks in the shop getting the Park Smart repaired. Over and over and over again. They replaced the unit 4 times for us. They rebuilt the unit several times. They replaced parts a couple of times. That year, this was with a different company, okay? That year was our lowest income ever, because we were spending so much time sitting getting that Park Smart repaired. Basically what it is a additional battery pack that sits in a saddle mount between the frame rails behind the sleepers. That battery pack charges with the engine running. It has a 10-hour runtime. The entire unit, other than the batteries, goes inside the truck, behind the driver's seat in the lower cabinet section. So you lose a ton of storage. I mean, that entire section is useless. It's gone. That's about 25, 30 cubic feet, somewhere around in there. It's basically a full-size lower cabinet section in a Freightliner. And the way they designed the system, they put the evaporator, the thing that, where basically the radiator where the cooling happens, over the electronics. And the condensation would drip down into the electronics and it'd short the entire system out. Really, really bad design. I mean, nasty design. Plus, with any battery-based system, you're limited to the life of the batteries. So it may be good if you're doing a 10-hour shutdown. But let's say you get to a shipper or receiver and you get laid over. We're not going to unload you till tomorrow. So it's 4 p.m. You got to wait until 6 a.m. for them to open up. That's 14 hours. Then it takes them several more hours to get to you. Well, 4 hours before they even open, your batteries are dead. So you have to start the truck. That doesn't seem too efficient to me. I mean, the entire purpose of these systems is so that you do not run the truck engine. Cut down on maintenance, fuel consumption, all that other startup system. When you turn the key off in the truck, the tri-pack automatically engages, turns on. When you start the truck, it automatically shuts off. The carrier unit, you have to manually go, when you turn the truck off, you have to manually go to the back, turn on the engine with the on-off button, and it'll tell you APU starting, wait for it to start up. Then once it starts up and goes through its diagnostics, then you can turn on the air conditioner. Now the air conditioner has two modes, high and low. And those are basically your fan speeds. You have two fan speeds, period. And then you have a notched bar display for your temperature setting. The tri-pack, on the other hand, you turn the key off, it automatically starts up. You start the truck, it automatically shuts off. And another thing I like about the tri-pack is we have had this happen. We had the alternator go out on the truck. I'm driving down the road, the alternator light comes on. I'm like, oh boy. And all of a sudden I'm hearing this sound coming from behind me. It sounded like the APU was running. Well, it was. It detected a lack of voltage from the alternator, and it automatically came on to keep the battery, and well, keep the batteries charged up, keep the engine running. So I was able to drive to a shop without worrying about the batteries going down on me, the ECM on the computer shutting off, and leaving me stranded on the side of the road. So the APU came in and saved the day. I don't know if the carrier will be able to do that. If my alternator goes out on this truck, I don't know if I'll be able to start up the APU and keep my batteries up in order to get to a shop. Hopefully that'll never be an issue. But I'm just saying the tri-pack does serve an advantage on that. Also, with the tri-pack, you set a specific temperature. Instead of going along a bar that has no number designations to tell you how cold, how hot, the instructions don't tell you what the minimum and max temperatures are. You're just guessing at it. On the tri-pack, say you want to keep it around 68 degrees, you set it at 68 and it'll maintain that. So basically, convenience-wise, functionality-wise, operationally, the tri-pack is, in my opinion, hands down, the much better auxiliary power unit. Now, there's another one out. I can't think of the name of it. I think it's Comfort Air or something like that. I don't know anything about that system, so I cannot give an honest opinion on it, and I will refrain from doing so because I don't know anything about it. But based on my experience, if I had a choice, which we didn't have a choice in this, the company that we worked for had contracts with carrier, so we got a carrier APU. If it were my choice, it would be tri-pack. Now, the good, the bad, and the ugly on APUs in general. Getting an APU serviced costs just as much as getting a full truck service. APU services are not inexpensive. You would think they would be because they're, you're dealing with a little itty-bitty 2-cylinder engine as compared to the, big 6-cylinder, in our case, 13-liter diesel engine. But because show because it was hidden behind the fairings, as it is on our truck. But you also have a lot of stuff inside, mounted underneath the bunk. Now, to those of you that don't know how the typical bunks are laid out inside a truck, underneath the bunk is typically broken down into 3 sections. And you have outside access door to the side sections, and you lift the bunk to get to the center section. An APU will take up one of those storage compartments. In our case, with the Volvo 780, since we opted for no table and a solid bunk, the section where your feet would go when you're sitting, which is the center section, is now filled up with APU interior parts, which includes the main control unit, evaporator, a couple other things. But you lose a good bit of storage. And watching Jade and John's videos, I see that they use the entire underbunk area for storage. Well, where they keep their water bottles and a couple other things, that whole center section, they'd have to find another place to put all that stuff. Ductwork will run off of there and typically run up the passenger side closet for your air vents. I mean, if the thing's blowing cold air or blowing hot air, the air needs a place to come out, right? And you'll have 3 outlets, one at floor level or below the bunk, one at the level to handle the bottom bunk, and one at the level to handle the top bunk. Typically, it's run through the passenger side closet. So if you're wanting to put drawer units or whatever in there, you have to take that into account and get something that's not as deep, because you'll have a 3-inch flexible rubber tube going up through the closet. Now ours, where it comes out of the closet at the bottom bunk level, and then there's basically a periscope that goes to the upper bunk, and that's how it gets air to the upper bunk. So our upper storage is not lost, or we don't lose any space in our upper storage on the passenger side. The ideal system we had with a tri-pack and a Peterbilt 387, the Peterbilts. And that one had the ducts tying into the existing climate control ductwork for when the engine is running. So we lost 0 closet space. Everything blew out of the regular vents, with the addition of the extra lower vent, which is under the under the bottom bunk, which that system was my favorite. The main issue with APUs is weight. They weigh over 800 pounds. So it's that much less load you can carry. Now, if you have an APU, you get a nice letter from the federal government that says you're allowed an extra 400 pounds. That's only half the weight of the APU, but still it helps. So if you go to 80,400 pounds, you get pulled in the scales, they're ready to write you a ticket, you pull out that federal letter, and they tell you to drop dead. Because the federal government may approve it, but some states will not accept that. So you're still limited to 80,000 pounds, with 800 pounds of it being eaten up by an APU. In most cases, it's not that much of an issue. And if you're running heavy all the time and you've got customers cutting product, shippers cutting product to keep you legal, and they have no issues with that, that's no problem. Some places, they don't like to cut product. They'll send you on your merry way. They'll tell you, we're going to put 42,000 pounds on. And you show up with a 36,000 pound truck and trailer. Should come to 78,000. Then you go scale it, and lo and behold, you're 81,000. Because they lied. Our next pickup is like that. They refuse to cut product. They put on a lot more weight than they say. And they claim it's you. Even if you show them a CAT scale ticket showing this is exactly what my truck weighs, you're saying you're putting this much weight on our truck. Do the math. Somebody here is lying, and it isn't CAT scale. So anyway, that's one of the bad things about APUs. The cost, they're expensive. Anywhere from $8,000 to $12,000, depending on who puts it in for you, how they install it, how much time it takes, so on and so forth. What part of the country you're getting it put on in, whether or not you have a fleet discount, things like that. So you have to figure on cost effectiveness, which is the most important thing in business. Up till recently, we always figured a truck using 1 gallon per hour idling. Now, my Volvo here gives me an instant usage gauge, and it tells me I use 0.6 of a gallon per hour when I idle, which is actually really good. But you're also increasing wear and tear on the engine. An APU uses 1/10 of a gallon per hour. So for every hour that the APU is running, it saves you a half a gallon of fuel. It's only $2 if you're figuring on a $4 per gallon average. Well, that $2 per hour adds up. 10 hours, that's 20 bucks. Alright, so 20 bucks a night. And if you stay out for a whole month running every day, that's $600 a month. That's also not counting doing resets or taking home time. Now, some people will run their APUs when they're on home time. Trucker Josh mentioned battery issues because of the cold in Canada in the winter. If I were him, I would definitely keep the APU running. We take off a lot in Vegas in the summer. We also have a refrigerator in the truck that we keep stocked. It's a pain in the butt to empty the refrigerator out, haul everything to the house, find a place to put it in the fridge over there at the house, because we're visiting the stepson, Chris's son, his wife, and grandkids, so they have their own stuff in the fridge. Then have to pack it all back up, bring it back out to the truck, hope and pray that the refrigerator cools off quick enough that we don't lose anything in the process. And we also don't want to burn our batteries out while we're off on the weekend. I have the refrigerator drain the batteries all the way, so we'll keep the APU running. So home time, all those hours, 3 days is 72 hours. That's 36 gallons. That's $144 that it saves you in worth it. If you're running solo, absolutely. Beyond a doubt, get an APU if you're solo owner-op. It will save you a lot of money, a lot of maintenance, a lot of wear and tear on the engine. If you're running team, you have to think about how you run. The way we run real hard until we're out of hours. Take a reset, run real hard until we're out of hours. We do that for a month at a time. And it's still economical for us to use an APU because we do get held up at customers. We do take resets, things like that, so it's cost effective. Our payment on the APU itself is $50 a week. So it saves us more than $50 a week in fuel, so it's worth it. As far as brands, like I said, there's one brand I don't know anything about. Can't even remember the name of them. But between the tri-pack and the carrier, it's a tri-pack, absolutely hands down. The carrier, if you can get a real good deal on it and save a couple of $1,000s compared to the tri-pack. The Park Smart system from Freightliner, allegedly they've gotten their bugs straightened out, but still you have that 10-hour maximum usage limit. It costs almost as much as a regular APU. I just don't trust it at all anymore. And the time limit combined with that, it doesn't seem to be cost effective to me. Now, of course, this is all my opinion. Okay? Bear in mind, different people will have different opinions. This is my opinion. Oh, one other thing I forgot to mention as far as teams and APUs. The APUs are designed only to heat and cool the sleeper. Now, Trucker Josh mentioned keeping the cab cool. They're not strong enough on a sunny day to cool off the sleeper and the cab. Now, the heaters usually work pretty good for keeping the whole thing warm, but you don't have any ductwork going to the front. So if there's somebody else asleep in the back, they're going to be nice and comfortable, and you're going to either freeze or boil, depending on the time of the year, while you're sitting up front trying not to disturb them. That's the one flaw in the system that I have found. Now, you can probably run your own ducts to the front and spread it around a little bit better if you are an owner-operator. Remember, company drivers, you're limited on what modifications you can do to the truck. But that's, you know, in my opinion, one thing that I believe that APU manufacturers just didn't think about. And the other thing is the climate control thermostat system. Now, in this Volvo, I've got a knob. I can set the temperature, and it will automatically switch between heat and air to maintain that temperature. I've got an 86 Cadillac Fleetwood. So, 86, 96, 2006, 14. It is 28 years old. 28 years ago, Cadillac, General Motors, we all know now it's Government Motors, right? They had a system where you could just set the temperature and it would lot of desert stuff. Now, this even applies, had a situation in Oklahoma. So, it covers more than just the desert Southwest. But that works as a perfect example. Okay? In the daytime, in the desert, it can get over 100 degrees. But at night, because there's no vegetation to hold the temperature, to hold the heat in or anything, keep the temperature up, sun goes down, temperature goes down. And it'll drop like crazy. So it can be 40 degrees outside. Well, 40 is a little bit too cold to sleep. So if you set your APU and you go to bed when it's super hot, you'll wake up in the middle of the night when it gets super cold because you're getting froze out. So APU manufacturers, please listen. Come up with a true thermostatically controlled system. We've had them in houses for years. We've had them in cars for decades. So there's no reason that you can't put a simple, proper, self-switching thermostat into an APU unit. So anyway, that's it for right now, and I will check in again later. Okay, just done my 30. Stopped by my folks. Got my mail. Got a nice homemade cake from my mother, which she forgot we're on a diet, but I wasn't going to send it back. Anyway, that right there, bloop, that's where it is. Right there's one of the houses, and the other house is right there in the trees. That's the property from there to there, from right here to right here. 30-something acres. Out in the middle of the woods. Got a little farm pond out there. My niece and her husband and her 2 boys live in one of the houses. My parents live in the other house. We live in the truck. And that's about it. Got my 30 done. Don't know what all's in the mail. I hadn't looked at it. I'll look at it later when I shut down tonight. Boy, feeling all itchy right now. Must be the pollen in the air or something. It's that time of year. Started sneezing when I hit Illinois. But we are off. Gonna head on down. I got another 5 hours of drive time available. I'm not gonna use all of that. Gonna see if I can get us down to Georgia. We're in Tennessee. This is off of exit 19. And here, let me put this back on the GoPro. We're at exit 19 in Tennessee, so we're gonna drop down through Nashville, stay on 24 all the way down to Chattanooga, and pick up 75. So get down there and see where we're at. Well, end of shift today. Made it to exit 296 on I-75 in Georgia. We're at the TA. Windy as can be. Gonna wake Chris up in a little bit. We're gonna go take a shower. Then while she's finishing up, I'm gonna come back out here and get out the Vitamix and start doing a bunch of juicing. We usually make for a couple of days and use soda stream bottles. Almost couldn't think of it. Fill up our soda stream bottles, put them in the fridge, and we're all set. So gotta do that after I get out of the shower, and still gotta reset the GPS. It's showing 711 miles to go, but we don't want to run down the Florida Turnpike, so I gotta reset that to take us over to Jacksonville and drop down 95. I could go down 27, but that's slow traveling. Time, fuel, and everything else, we're better off cutting across 10 to 95 and dropping straight down. The little bit extra fuel we're going to burn is actually cheaper than the tolls we'd have to pay. So we end up a lot better off that way. And I guess that's going to be it for today, other than one very important thing. Happy 238th birthday, United States. It's the 4th of July. This video will be up today, so I can still have it posted on today, but today is the 4th. So happy birthday, United States.